But for me and my team, we're less focused on moments and more about the momentum that we can build. So the things that we're focused on is not trying to make one post viral or one thing successful. It's looking at the big program and kind of charting out a longer term course, which can be a little difficult at a startup. A startup, they want to see instant results, and we are working towards, again, quarter over quarter. I want to be able to prove and present to our board that we are building that momentum, but also making sure it's sustainable.
All right, welcome into Future Fuzz, the digital marketing podcast. I'm Vince Quinn, and today we're talking about major changes in marketing strategy and the value of sustained growth versus virality. And joining me for this conversation today is Casey Bright. Now, Casey is a marketing leader with over 15 years of experience building brands and demand for B2B, as well as B2C and global companies. With a background in go-to-market, inbound and demand generation strategy, she's worked closely with sales, product, and RevOps teams to drive revenue growth at startups and Fortune 500 companies. She is the senior director and head of marketing at Passport. Casey, hello.
Hi, Vince. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for joining me today. And by the way, before we really get into it, I hear a passionate New Jersey defender, correct? New Jersey local, diehard, love New Jersey.
Yes, it gets a lot of bad rap. Some of it deserves, some of it not. But I'm from a beautiful rural area of New Jersey, and I'll defend New Jersey and its strong merits to the death.
Yeah, wife from New Jersey, lived in Philadelphia, lived in New Brunswick for a while. So I'm with you. New Jersey, not
Nice.
as bad as people make it out to be. All right, so let's just get that out there right up front. So, all right, so Casey, as we really get started here, first off, before talking about marketing transitions and all that fun stuff, just give people an idea of what Passport is. I mean, what is the work that you do?
Sure. So Passport is a global e-commerce provider. So essentially, we do everything end to end, working with e-commerce brands to help them go global. So that means helping them to localize their store experience, baking in things like duty and tax calculations into the upfront costs in the store experience. That helps to boost conversions, but we also handle the cross-border shipping. So again, making sure that whether it's a US brand or internationally, we're able to ship your products to your consumers abroad. And then we also help with things like tax and fiscal compliance. There's a lot of regulations and hurdles, as I'm sure you're aware, if you're shipping products overseas, especially products like say makeup that have ingredient regulations or just different things that you have to manage from a customs and clearance perspective. We handle all that to really help brands support them to reach more customers worldwide.
Which is incredibly valuable, sir. I mean, just to be able to have all of those things settled for you, it's just mailing letters. Like I had a wedding just last year, and just trying to get all of that out with the mail is hard enough. So to think about like international shipping just makes my head hurt. So it's great that you provide all of that. And thinking a little bit then just from the marketing standpoint, I mean, going back, let's say a year ago, what were the ways that you were marketing Passport at the time? What was the approach?
Yeah, so I would say I started with Passport about a year and a half ago, and really at the time it was called Passport Shipping. We were branded and positioned as a shipping company, and that is still a core to our business. But the biggest thing, that we really went through this evolution of changing was migrating ourselves from just that shipping provider to that holistic end-to-end provider. And how do we do that? How do we make an impact to make sure we're still supporting our existing customers, providing that shipping service that they like, but also finding new customers that maybe they need more than just the shipping support. Again, maybe they don't have a lot of understanding in terms of those regulations and that clearance and customs and all of that. So how do we take our marketing from purely just a shipping provider and being able to support those type of logistics and operations personas to really expanding ourselves and repositioning ourselves so that we can go upstream too, look at bigger brands, how we can support them and go after personas that are, our head of e-commerce, or maybe it's even the CEO or the CFO of a company, making sure we're appealing to them as well.
And so how do you begin that process? I mean, knowing that you want to do all these big things and make this big change, how do you even get started with that?
Well, there was a lot involved. So we really went through evolutions. The first was changing our website. When you went to our website, again, passportshipping.com, it told a story that was very shipping focused, very directed at the logistics operations persona. So we completely revamped our website, made sure that we updated it, changed a new, or told a new story. But also we updated our branding. Before we were very much kind of startup in feel, I would say. Very kind of cartoony fun was great for where we were, but we are now going after larger enterprise customers. So we had to rebrand ourselves and change our look and feel so that we can attract those larger brands, make sure we're driving them to a website that's now passportglobal.com. So changing our domain, that was a huge hurdle, a huge task to overcome. But I think also a big piece too is not just the external, but also how do we start to have marketing play a bigger role in the sales process and the sales enablement and collateral so that we can help teach reps how do they evolve that story as well. Because it's not overnight. If you've taught them how to sell a shipping product, it takes a little bit of time to be able to teach them and arm them with what they need to tell that new story about the brand that we are today versus the brand that we used to be a year ago.
And it's great to hear that collaboration. I mean, sometimes you hear that like sales is on one side of the building, marketing's on the other. They kind of work independently and not necessarily together. So, I mean, to be able to integrate everything and see those kinds of results, I mean, it makes a lot of sense. And I can imagine. And what I love about it is when you're thinking about this, like content is in marketing, it's this ecosystem, right? So it's not just this one message and getting it out, but it's like, how does it touch everything that you do? So obviously sales is part of that and getting them on the same page and selling the right product and doing it the right way. What were some of the other ways then that you were getting this message out and really starting to connect with people?
Yeah, I mean, to your point, I think back in the day, you used to think about this like siloed organizations of marketing's over here, sales over here. Sometimes there's competing interests of, who's driving this lead or there's just a little bit of a disconnect. Under, I think, the more modern organizations or way they should be set up is having those both within a revenue organization working together. And that means collaborating every week and every day with your sales leaders, making sure you're understanding their goals, supporting them, working directly with the reps, arming them with what they need, understanding that sales process, and also hopefully helping them to evolve and improve that process. Because at the end of the day, if we're driving more inbound leads in, I want to make sure that they are able to get those leads across the finish line. But I also want to arm them with what they need as they're outbound prospecting. So, it's everything from making sure that sales pitch presentation is looking on brand, it's communicating the value proposition of the company that we want to get across, is also telling the stories. So, arming with things like case studies to make sure that, not just through us telling a story, but it's also the story of our customers and those stories helping to do the selling and on our behalf.
And so what does it look like? I mean, you collaborate with the salespeople, you're talking every day, you're giving them this information, you're telling this story and doing it in such an artful, purposeful way. Like, how do you know that you're seeing those results? What does that look like once you do it?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a lot of different things, and what I like to really focus on is it's less tactic based. Let's be holistic in thinking, and it's holistic in the sense of creating integrated campaigns from the top of the funnel all the way down to the bottom of the funnel, but also taking that step back too is like, again, how are we making sure we're not just focused on metrics like marketing sourced leads, marketing sourced bookings. It's about supporting the entire ecosystem, and making sure that we are, providing the programs and the insights that they need to be successful, and doing that in a way that is, continually pushing it. Like we're doing lunch and learns like earlier today. We had a lunch and learn with the team. It's about things that are not related to our marketing campaigns. Sometimes they are. And obviously that's a big portion too, is, making sure we have those regular touch bases where we can let them know, here's how and where we're spending our money. And whether that be through events or through digital marketing, it's all of those things together. But also, baking in and spending the time doing things like lunch and learns, education, all of that together to make sure that it's not just the marketing metrics I want to see going up. But to your question about how do we know if success and how do we know if it's working? Well, I also want to see the win rates across our sales team overall going up. And that's going to be, contributed to what marketing is doing as well as what sales is doing. But if we can see our marketing win rate grow or go up from everything from marketing source to outbound, that's successful. That means that we are telling the right stories, arming them with the right materials, improving our processes enough to win together.
Future Fuzz is sponsored by SalesSource, B2B pipeline management and sales growth for your business.
And I love that it's such like a cultural sort of approach to it, right? Like there's such a harmony in everything. So I think that's really interesting. And to take it to the next phase then, because beyond that, obviously you're doing all this work behind the scenes in the company, but when it comes to the big picture and getting the word out, so many people are fixated on this idea of, hey, I want to go viral. I want to be on all the blogs. I want to be the hot topic of LinkedIn for the day. So how do you feel about that overall strategy and the value of virality?
I mean, look, there's a lot of benefit to going viral. I will not knock that, and especially for say a B2C brand, influencers being viral, that is key. For a B2B brand, yes, you will see maybe boosts in subscribers or a blip on the radar. You want to have those moments, but for me and my team, we're less focused on moments and more about the momentum that we can build. So the things that we're focused on is not trying to make one post viral or one thing successful. It's looking at the big program and kind of charting out a longer term course, which can be a little difficult at a startup. A startup, they want to see instant results, and we are working towards, again, quarter over quarter. I want to be able to prove and present to our board that we are building that momentum, but also making sure it's sustainable. So that means investing in things like content, so digital content. How are we making sure we're optimizing our website, building more content so that we're a resource that's adding value, but also starting to build our domain authority, pulling people to the website so we're not always having to spend money to drive there. Because again, that's another thing too for a startup company is being able to spend your dollars wisely. Because if they're not untapped and on a budget, you really have to be thoughtful about how and where, and making sure you're spending the time building that engine behind the scenes with things like with things like content marketing and that longer play all becomes, you see over time your organic traffic improving, the leads coming to your site directly or through organic search, or even we're starting to see wins from things like ChatGPT snippets being featured there. That all is kind of adding to a slow burn momentum, which is going to be able to sustain us over time.
Yeah, I mean, it's just so important to be able to build these relationships with people and to be able to send them somewhere that you own that space. You're there all the time. You're building that trust. You're building that visibility. I see it a lot of times in podcasting. I mean, what happens is a lot of people will say, I'm going to build this general show because I just want to get this big audience and hopefully I get sponsors for it. And it's like, well, you have a business, you have a brand. Like, why aren't you just focusing on who you are and what you do and the people you serve, and understand that, hey, if you build enough of an audience of that, and it does resonate and your message is good, you can get sponsors on that eventually, but you're selling product. Like, that's what you're here to do. You're here to really build your business and grow in that way. So people, they just seem to get distracted by the bigger number. But when somebody becomes an advocate for you, I mean, you really can't beat somebody just saying like, hey, these people make great content, and if you're in this space and you need information, this is where this is where you got to be.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's exactly. So one of the, I think, best accolades that I've seen was more anecdotally. We've been creating all this great content. We're pushing it out through monthly newsletters. We've gotten unsolicited feedback from customers and from prospects about, wow, your newsletter is so great. I find the information so helpful. We're putting out content related to complex issues like shipping and compliance. So if we're able to provide those content, send it to them, share it on LinkedIn, and we're getting shout outs for the value that's providing, that's just further validation that, again, yes, we are starting to build those backlinks and drive more people to our website and doing all those things that we should be doing, but we're also adding value, and it's being proven in those kind of unmeasurable or anecdotal ways.
Yeah, and it's great to see that build over time. So obviously, you've been making this transition for the past year and a half now, and you've been building all these programs and putting out this new content and building all of this new message. What's next? I mean, what are some of the things that as you're looking ahead, where do you want to start focusing your energy?
Yeah, I mean, it never stops. We will continue to evolve. I mean, this is something I've meeting with our CEO recently about kind of the future vision of the brand. Where do we want to take it, and how do we lean more into being that challenger brand? We are still building brand name recognition and going head to head with a larger incumbent. So we want to make sure, we're positioning and messaging as that challenger brand. Continuing to evolve how we talk about our brand, how we position, what we look like, making sure we're more sophisticated, tapping into things like AI to just get smarter about what we're doing. But also from just a purely marketing standpoint, the next evolution is really taking it from that brand level, which we've done the hard work, we've built awareness, we're starting to make impact there, and really focusing more on mid to bottom of the funnel and doing that through ongoing education and support for our sales team to help win those leads that are in our pipeline, but also really focusing more on kind of, I know it gets like been a buzzword for a while is ABM marketing, but it is for a reason, especially as we're looking to go after those larger enterprise accounts. We're not always going to drive leads directly from digital. We need to be going after them in a very coordinated and strategic way with our sales team so that we're hunting those same brands, we're surrounding them with our messaging, and really taking a more personalized approach. And that's everything from starting to personalize landing page experiences, messaging from a marketing perspective, to also the personalized messaging that our SDR team is providing as they're going and outbound to those same prospects.
And you talk a little bit there like about the funnel and having this idea of all this stuff has been the top of the line, but then when you're getting to mid funnel, end of funnel, like to be able to properly capitalize on the work that you've done. I think that's so important because so many people are focused on, hey, we're just going to get this stuff out there, and if we're getting the views and whatever, that's great. But if you're not properly translating it back, I mean, it's just such a waste of energy in a sense. And so I love that you're starting to focus on those things as well. I mean, just generally speaking, like video content, for example, let's say I'm making video content, it's going really well, I'm getting good response on that. What are some ways of best practices where I can capitalize more on that content and make sure that later in the funnel, I'm seeing those kinds of results?
Yeah, I mean, that's actually a great example. That's one of like the forward looking is we want to be investing more in video content. And from where that investment needs to be is, again, we want to make sure we are telling stories, not just of our expertise, but really focusing on telling our customers' stories. So how do we do more things like video case studies? Because those are great for both top of funnel awareness. We can use those to amplify them, get more eyeballs on them, but also providing them as resources, again, to our salespeople. We can use them in our nurture process. So including those emails in, post conversion email campaigns, including those videos in those pitch decks. So as an AE is having a conversation with a prospect that's already in pipeline, sharing those stories also helps to, again, add credibility, because I think a big shift too is, as we're kind of positioning as that challenger brand to the incumbent, I don't want to be the brand that leads with ourselves. We need to lead with who we're helping, because again, it's about them less so than it is even about us. So if we can demonstrate the success and the capabilities we can provide through the stories of our customers' success, I think that's the most valuable tool that we'll be able to leverage throughout the entire funnel.
Yeah, and it's such a beautiful thing to be able to have content be that perfect unity essentially between sales and marketing, and have it on both sides of the process, and continue to build those relationships, highlight who you are and what you do. So love all of that. The philosophy is great. So Casey, for everybody who wants to keep up with Passport, the great work that you're doing there, how would you like them to stay tuned?
Yeah, I mean, I think the best way to follow us is go to passportglobal.com. Again, we went through a huge domain transition, building a lot of great content on that site. We have a blog there. You can learn everything from shipping and our latest case studies all on our website, as well as follow us on LinkedIn. So under Passport Global, follow along. We'd love to take you guys on the journey.
Well, there you go. So Casey Bright of Passport, thank you so much for your time. And for you listening, thank you as well. We'll talk to you soon on Future Fuzz.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in and making the choice to listen to this podcast. If you liked what you've heard today, please don't forget to subscribe.